Hello and welcome back to the Recruiting Solutions podcast. I'm your host, James Welch, the CEO and founder of Recruiting Solutions and the author of The Art of Military Recruiting. Today, we're going to take a moment to talk about something that every military recruiter should have on their radar right now. And that's leading our future service members, or as we call them in the Army, future soldiers, to prepare for the likelihood of ship losses during the months of January and February. Now, if you've been in military recruiting for a while, you already know the J months, that's January, June, and July, they can make or break your year. And why? Those are the months where our attrition spikes. That's where our delayed entry program becomes most vulnerable. The good news is you can do something about it by being proactive. But the time to act is now. And that's what we're going to cover in today's episode. So let's get started. First of all, let's talk about why this matters. For those who are not in military recruiting, when someone enlists into the military, regardless of their branch, they enlist and then they become part of what's called the delayed entry program. That is the time period between when they enlist and when they ship off to basic training. So that could be 2 weeks. In the case of high school seniors, it could be up to a year. It just depends. But during that time period, while they're waiting to ship out, this is where the recruiters can be proactive to make sure their future service member remains committed to shipping out. And then secondly, to get them prepared for the rigors of what they're going to face at basic training. And I can tell you this, once an applicant takes their oath at MEPS, they're no longer prospects. You can't look at them that way. You have to look at them as members of your team. And as an individual recruiter, you are responsible for those who enlist under your watch. They joined because of you. They want to be like you. And they're going to ship out because of your leadership. Now, you can't look at this as just an administrative task. It is a mission-critical responsibility. And it determines whether your future service members are going to stay motivated, whether they're going to stay qualified, and whether they're going to continue on that path to serve our nation. And it can't be neglected or kicked to the side to someone else in your organization. You have to take personal responsibility. Now, some services will say you can take up to a 10% attrition of your future service members. I think that's poor thinking. You've got to get that down to 2 or 3%. And that will allow for those circumstances like health concerns or car accidents, whatever the case may be, things that you just can't do anything about. But what we have found is that in the months of January and February, that attrition of future service members can be as high as 20 to 30%. And there's different reasons for that. But if you're proactive during this time period, you can get ahead of it and get it back down to that below 5% level that we're talking about. The difference is leadership. Pure and simple. But let's talk about why it can be so high in January and February. So, first of all, in January, you've got people who enlisted in the fall, maybe up until December. They're motivated to serve. Then over the holiday period, they may begin to have some second thoughts about leaving home, about doing something going into the unknown. And what we find is that after the holidays, many future service members experience what I call that post-holiday second thoughts. You know, they've had time with family, they've had time with relatives, and now they're getting those thoughts like, are you sure you want to go? And suddenly fear sets in. So if you didn't address some of their doubts in December, you can still lose people in February. And that's why I tell every recruiter, you don't lead your future soldiers in January. in February and expect them to ship out. You have to lead them well in November and December before the holidays begin. If you wait until something happens or they voice their concerns in January, February, it's too late. You have to be proactive now. So how do you do that? What does that proactive leadership look like? Well, it starts with some structure and some respect. All too often, some recruiters will enlist a young man or woman into their service, and they want to be buddy-buddy with them. You cannot do that. They're not joining to be your buddy. They're joining because they respect you. They want to be like you. So when they come on board after their enlistment at MEPS, remember that you're their first leader in uniform. So instead of calling them Johnny, you need to begin to address them by their new rank. Maybe it's private, whatever the case may be. You've got to hold them accountable if they miss a deadline or don't show up to training. And then you have to take the time to teach them the basics of military culture. We're talking about customs and courtesies, being physically ready, discipline, those sorts of things. That not only makes them part of the team, now they're going to feel more prepared for basic training. So when they start having those doubts about whether they can do it, they'll know, I'm ready, I'm prepared. My recruiter has gotten me ready for basic training. So how do you do that? Well, hopefully you have some sort of weekly training for your future service member program. That's one time a week where you bring them all together and you teach them some of these things. Maybe you go out and do some physical training. Maybe it's a class, but each session that you do has to have a purpose. Again, maybe it's a class on drill and ceremony. Maybe the next class is on customs and courtesies, how to salute, all those sorts of things. But it's got to have a connection. So you've got to take the time after doing the training to talk to each of your future service members or your future soldiers individually. Again, you cannot punt this responsibility to someone else. You've got to sit down with them, look them in the eye, ask them about school, ask them about their job, their family, anything like that. And then you need to annotate those interactions, both good and bad. So annotating those interactions, that's going to allow you to spot patterns like relationship problems, pregnancies, things like that you need to be aware of to either prepare to lose them in the delayed entry program or maybe mitigate some of their concerns or their fears. That's how you lead a future service member. But again, that starts now. You can't wait till January or February. You have to do it now. And what we find is, yes, of course you have to do this throughout the year. But it's particularly important for those shipping out in January and February. The winter months are incredibly important, right? Certainly you can't stop homesickness or second thoughts, but you can get ahead of them. And there's some different things that you can do during this time of year. I've seen this done before where recruiters will have some sort of Christmas or holiday future soldier event in mid-December. They bring them all together, and those shipping out in December and January and February, hey, then maybe they have some sort of potluck or big training event where the future service members can bring in their family members, their parents, right? Make them all part of the team. And when you do that, again, they feel more compelled to ship out, but they're also more willing to talk about any concerns they have. And then in addition to some sort of holiday event, take it one step further. Send each of your future service members a personal Christmas card or a holiday card that's signed by the recruiters in your station. And that sounds like a small gesture, but it can, again, have a big impact. Once again, they feel like they're part of the team and they don't want to let you down. And overall, the key is this. You got to stay consistent. You got to check in with each of your future service members every week, but especially during the holidays. We're talking about text, calls, but also seeing them in person. You've got to reinforce the message that they're not alone, that they're part of your team. And if you have a future service member who goes radio silent for a week or two, and they're not answering calls, they're not answering your text, you need to address it immediately. Go to their house, see them in person, talk to them. Don't just ignore it and hope things will get better, because they will not. And then that kind of engagement, that's going to prevent those future service members from walking away when it's time to ship out in January and February. Now, on top of that, of course, we want to build that culture of teamwork and prepare those future service members for basic training. But it's not just about retention. There's another aspect of this that you always have to think of as a recruiter. You have to remember that your future service members, they can also be your best recruiters. And what we find is that many studies have been done that have shown referrals from future service members or future soldiers, those referrals are 3 times more likely to enlist than cold leads that recruiters find on their own. What you've got to do, in addition to bringing those people in, your future service members, you've got to build a culture of referrals. So when you have these events, whether it's a holiday event or a training event, encourage the future service members to bring their friends with them to participate in the training. Right? And when they do that, recognize them publicly for their efforts. Make sure they know that what they're doing is important. And in some branches, those referrals can result in promotions for the future service member before they even get to basic training. So build that culture of referrals as well. Okay, so what should you be doing right now? What are some actionable steps that you can take to improve your future service member program and to get ahead of any ship losses that you may experience in January or February? Okay, let's go through those real quick. Number 1, schedule weekly future service member training. You need to have this every week, same time, same place, and have a plan for instruction. When those future service members show up, make sure they're getting something out of it. Secondly, you need to assign a non-commissioned officer in your recruiting station to conduct that training. You have to ensure that someone's responsible and they have a plan, and if you're a leader, you've reviewed that plan. Again, you want this to be a meaningful training session. Third, you got to increase the contact frequency with your future service members, especially during this time of year. So between now and November, all the way through their ship date, and again, you'll want to do this again in the summer with June and July, but you need to increase the contact frequency so you're seeing these future service members every week if possible. And if it's not in person, at least you're talking to them over the phone. We talked about this previously, but during this time of year, host a holiday event. Again, it might be some sort of Thanksgiving potluck. Maybe it's a Christmas party. Whatever. Bring those future service members and their families together to make sure they're part of the team. Again, once they've enlisted, start using their rank and military terminology. We want them to be part of the team immediately. No longer are they just old applicant Johnny Smith. Now they're Private Smith. And teach them with dignity and respect the customs and courtesies of your military service. Make sure as you have those interactions with them that you're also checking in on any life changes they may have experienced, whether that's relationships, jobs, whatever. Again, that personal interaction could reveal some telltale signs about them not shipping out the basic training you scheduled. We talked about the importance of that earlier, but this is the key that a lot of recruiters forget. Don't just ask your future service members for referrals. You need to demand it. It's just part of what they do, is being a part of the military team, right? It doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about it, but they should know when they show up to weekly training, they're going to bring the name and phone number of someone they know who could benefit from military service. That needs to take place every week. And then lastly, do not allow no-shows. If a future service member is not showing up to weekly training, you need to address it. Okay, if they have work, offer them a different time slot to come in for training. If they don't have a ride, drive to their house and pick them up and bring them to training. But do not allow no-shows for your future service members, especially those who are going to ship in January and February. They need to be at training. Now, those are all small actions, but I can tell you from experience, when you do those things and you do them consistently, you will have a powerful future service member program. Your attrition rate will get down to 3% or less, and you're going to increase the number of referrals that you have coming into your recruiting station. It makes a huge difference for you. But in closing, remember this, recruiters, the time to act is now. You cannot kick this can down the road. Remember, every future service member who's taken that oath of enlistment has placed their trust in you, not just your service. And you can't let that trust fade over the holidays. Don't wait till January to lead them. You must lead them now. And when you do that, again, you're going to reduce attrition. You're going to increase referrals. And you're going to be more successful as a recruiter. It doesn't happen by accident, though. This happens because of your leadership. So act now. Be present and lead your future service members today so you don't lose them tomorrow. Okay, team. Hey, this was a short session, but again, it's an important reminder. Get after it. Lead your future soldiers and your future service members today. I appreciate you tuning in to today's Recruiting Solutions podcast. If you did find this episode helpful, please share it with your team, and also check out my book, The Art of Military Recruiting, Lessons Learned from the Recruiting Battlefield, and you'll find more tools and strategies to help you master the craft of military recruiting. Also check out our website, recruitingsolutionsllc.com, if your team is ready for some advanced consultation and training on how to be more successful in sales and recruiting. Until next time, here's to less stress and more success.